Russian Socialist Revolution. So here, dear students, it is the League of Nations. It is the first ever institution, international organization created after the end of World War One by the Treaty of Versailles. Okay, it was established on 11th January 1920, and it was aimed to prevent wars. They had experienced a very dangerous destruction by World War One, so many of the nations realized that there should not be wars again. So they kept an aim to stop the wars. If any situation is there for wars, that should be settled with discussions, that is called negotiations, by talking to each other. And another important aim of the League of Nations was make sure of disarmament. Armament in the sense weapons, my dear students. So weapons have to be reduced. That means expenditure on militarism should come down. Okay. And they also kept an aim for development of all the nations and to promote welfare of the labors and health of the people. These all were the aims of League of Nations. It had 58 member countries when it was established, but it was failed. It failed to stand for its goals. It failed to stop wars among its member countries. So finally, one more deadly, one more dangerous, deadly war occurred. That is World War II. Before World War II, we will discuss the failure of a League of Nations. Okay. For two more questions, it will be asked. What are the aims of a League of Nations? This is about League of Nations. The next, the important topic, that is Russian Socialist Revolution. Dear students, Russia was an empire. In the early 20th century, Russia was ruled by presidents. Presidents in Russia were called czars. Tsars. That is pronounced as czars. So czars ruled Russia in the early 20th century. It is the largest country today, right? It's spread in two continents. If you open the political map of Atlas, you will find Russia is extended in Asian continent as well as Europe continent. So it is called Eurasian power. Europe, Euro means Asian continent. As it is extended in Europe and Asia, it is called Euro-Asian power. And it is third largest populated country in the world with 156 millions. The first populated, largest populated country, that is China, second is India, and third is Russia. Russia was an empire at that time. An empire consists of several kingdoms, several nations involved in it in early 20th century when czars were ruling it. It consisted of, that means Russian empire consisted of Russia, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. All these were the part of a Russian empire. After completing the class, open the atlas and find out these places. So most of the people in Russia too depended on agriculture like India. There are some similarities with India. Okay. There too, many of the people derived their livelihood from agriculture. There were constant wars in Russia between peasants and feudal lords. How there were wars in medieval India between landlords, that is jamindars, jagirdars, and farmers. Similar to India, in Russia, in Russian Empire too, there were struggles between peasants and feudal lords. Feudal lords were the owners of the lands. They owned vast lands and they rented the lands to the peasants at a high rent. So peasants were looted by feudal lords. Feudal lords exploited the peasants with a high rent. That was a struggle continuously going in Russian Empire. It was ruled by as many as five emperors. Five emperors, five czars ruled Russia. And the last czar who ruled Russia was Nicholas II. Nicholas II ruled Russian Empire with the help of army and bureaucracy, government servants who work for emperor. Hmm? Such a group of people are called bureaucracy. Today we call it government instead, government employees instead. So here, this is the nation, this is the empire, sir. This is an empire, that is Russian Empire, had suffered a lot by the World War One. Dear students, during the World War One time, Russian Empire had expensed much more in the World War One. In the World War One. So by World War One, Russia suffered a lot. Okay, there was loss of 2 million soldiers and civilians, citizens. Civilians, citizens. Okay, near about 20 lakh soldiers and citizens have lost by Russia, and we know that it is what you call it. It became the biggest loser of human lives in the World War One. Okay, and due to this World War One, there was a shortage of food during World War One time. Russia had supplied a large amount of food for war front, and that led to shortage of food for many people in Russian Empire. So people were not getting food. There were food crisis in Russian Empire. Okay, and around this time we see on March 8th, 1917. March 8th, 1917. This was the time Russia had withdrawn from World War One because there was a civil war within Russia. What is by civil war? Two group of people in a nation fighting, understand, or involved in a war, understand. That is called civil war. So there two group of people started a struggle in Russia, and that became trouble for the what Russian Empire, unable to concentrate on war front, that is World War One, and at its home place, that is Russia. Understand? So in 1917, Russia had withdrawn from the World War One due to the civil war which occurred in Russia. So what is that civil war? in 1917 on 8th March. Near about 10,000 women, they organized a demonstration at the capital city of Russia. At the time, Saint Petersburg. Saint Petersburg. It was the capital city of Russia. Today, it is Moscow, right? But that time it was Saint Petersburg. So from the capital city, many people, uh, near about 10,000 women, they organized a procession, a rally demanding peace and bread. They organized that shouting through the streets like this: we want peace and bread, we want peace and bread. Like that, 10,000 women, they started a rally. So workers who also not getting food, and they are not getting wages, and they were working continuously to supply the material for war. They too fed up with the work and the dictatorship, or what you call totalitarian rule, in which people did not enjoy freedom. There was a tyrannical rule in the sense in which there was no freedom to people. People words are not considered. There is no consideration to opinions of the people. Such a tyrannical rule, totalitarian rule, was set up by the czars in Russia. So Tsar Nicholas II organized this. So this army, which went for suppressing these demonstrators, they too joined. Workers joined with them. An army which was sent by Tsar to suppress these demonstrators, they too joined the water demonstrators, because army also suffered with continuous war, that is World War One, which had begun in 1914 and continuing during the 1917. So when it will come to end, nobody knows. So it is what a long war. For a long time, they were at a war, and that made the army also to feel insecure, and they also opposed the Tsar's rule, so they joined with the demonstrators. So within 2 days after the 8th March, that is on 10th March, on 10th March, there we see that the situation turned to very bad, and there was no control with the Tsar. So Tsar left his throne and escaped from the Russia. When Tsar left his chair, that is a throne, and escaped, then there a provincial government, a temporary government. Dear students, it is abdication. Abdication means when a king or emperor leaves his throne and runs away. That is called abdication. Paripovadam. Understand? So here the Emperor Nicholas II escaped from the throne, so that was occupied by these people, and there they set up a temporary government. Understand? And that was a success of the people against tyrannical rule, right? So here, this kind of rule, that is a totalitarian rule or tyrannical rule set by czars, had ended with the people's precision and people's unity, right? The first time the Russian Revolution succeeded there. Okay, that was the first Russian Revolution occurred in 1917 in the month of March, so that it is also called March Revolution. What we call this? March Revolution, because this revolution occurred in the month of March. Understand? It is also called February Revolution, my dear students. Why do we call this revolution as a February Revolution? We'll come to later it. Okay, right? So just to keep in mind that it is a March Revolution as well as February Revolution. Understand? Then after one more revolution occurred in Russian Empire by October 1917. Okay, and that was not at all of sudden. There, the liberals, aristocrats who ruled Russia after the abdication of the Tsar, they decided to continue the war. People, women, workers, soldiers, they were not interested to continue the war. That is World War One. Okay, when army is not supporting to the king or the emperor, how he can lead the nation, how he can what to call lead the what to call empire, right? So here the after the abdication of Nicholas II, okay, the temporary government formed there by the liberals and aristocrats. Aristocrats in the sense nobles who were rich people in the society. They captured the power and they too decided to continue in the war. That means they decided Russia should continue in World War One. Okay, because they wanted to save the honor of Russia, right? If Russia takes a decision that to withdraw from the war, that will be prestige issue. It what you call decreases the honor of Russia. So in order to protect the honor of Russia, this temporary government, what we call provisional government, that decided to continue the war, whereas the common people were tired of this military action, that is army at war. Okay, when Russia is in World War One, at that time the focus was given to World War One. That means everything should be provided for a war. That is food, ammunitions, weapons, right? Instead of producing all other items, then they focused on preparing the ammunitions, weapons, then bombs, manufacturing all these things, right? So there was no focus on other items. Industries also focused on producing the war material, and the food supplied to the warfare also. Large amount of food was supplied. That means there was shortage of food for common people. Civilians were not getting a sufficient food because much of the food supplied for army people at war. So the people tired of this military action, and due to the shortage of food and there is economic shortage, so the people decided there should not be war. Immediately Russia has to withdraw from the war. That was their desire. So people, they formed themselves a group, that what we call councils, which were called Soviets in Russia. Okay, many people who did not like Russia continuing in war, they formed certain groups or councils. We call them Soviets. Okay, different sections of the people formed their Soviets. That is, Soviets of soldiers, Soviets of industrial workers, and Soviets of the rural people, Soviets of the workers. Like this, several Soviets were formed by different sections of the people. Understand? So all these Soviets were led by one communist party in Russia known Bolshevik Party. Bolshevik is a communist party, my dear students. It is a Russian Communist Party. And this Bolshevik Party said by Lenin. Look at this figure 12.3. You could see that here Lenin, who is giving a speech addressing to the what people from St. Petersburg, understand, in 1917. He he stood up on the side of the water people. That means whatever the demands people had, with that demands only, Bolshevik party moved ahead. It moved front. Understand? All the groups that are Soviets, which were formed by different sections of the people, like a soldiers group, that what we call Soviet of soldiers, Soviet of the workers, Soviets of the peasants who suffered with the feudal lords, Soviets of the industrial workers who suffered by the capitalist persons. Like this, all the Soviets were controlled and organized by the Bolshevik party. The Bolshevik party represented the demands of the common people. It represented the power of the people. People backed the Bolshevik party instead. So their revolution started by the Bolshevik party. People of the Bolshevik party, that means the members of the Bolshevik party, are called Bolsheviks. We call them Bolsheviks. Okay. Actually, Lenin full name was Vladimir Ilyich Velnov. Vladimir Ilyich Velnov. And he changed his name to Lenin because in order to escape from the government's attack. Actually, Lenin was an editor of one newspaper, that is Iskra. Iskra. Iskra is a newspaper, that is what to call revolutionary paper. He was running that paper, and he motivated the people towards a revolution. And there was a claim that he was in a what to call a plan of murder of Alexander III, who was the Tsar of the Russia once upon a time. So there, the government organized a military action to kill the what Vladimir Ilyich Ivanov. So to escape from the government's attack, Lenin changed his what you call name, that is Vladimir Ilyich Ivanov. Vladimir Ilyich Ivanov, that was the name. From that to Lenin, he changed his name to Lenin instead. So Lenin stood up for what to call the demands of the people. Understand? What to call your Bolsheviks? They got support from the what people, and Bolshevik demanded that if people elect Bolshevik party as a ruling party in Russia, then they would go for what immediate unconditional peace treaty. That means they said that if they come to power, that who Bolsheviks, if Bolsheviks comes, if they comes to power, if Bolshevik comes to power, they will go on immediately withdrawing from the World War One. Okay, that is a decision, what to call, demanded by the people, was promised by the Bolshevik party, and they also demanded, there are certain demands of the people promised by the Bolshevik party, dear students. Instead, what are that? One is immediate unconditional peace treaty with Germany, because to come out from the World War One. And second is that the land which was under the control of the feudal lords, that will be seized and nationalized. That means total land will be under the control of a nation, right? And such a land will be redistributed to the peasants who did not have land till then. And it also decided to control over high prices. There, the food price and other commodity prices were high. So Bolsheviks demanded, and they decided to reduce the prices, and they also decided to nationalize the what all factories. Industries were under private sector, that is the capitalist persons. They were looting the people, especially by keeping high prices and also giving low wages to the workers. So industrial workers were very happy if industries are nationalized, then they will get what fair wages, right? And people will get commodities at a cheap rate, right? That is second point. Third point is that peasants also felt very happy that they will get land, as the land is redistributed to the landless people, that is peasants, right? Then another point is that their land which was under the control of the landlords, that should be redistributed to the peasants. And very important point is that immediately unconditional peace treaty with the Germany to get rid from the World War I instead. So with all these what to call it demands, with all these desires, the Bolshevik party turned to Supreme Party, which received support from all sections of the people, because all sections of the people's demand is same, which was promised by the Bolshevik party instead. So there, what to call the Bolshevik party has captured the power from the temporary government which was formed there with the liberals and aristocrats. That happened in the November 1917. So it was called October Revolution and November Revolution. How the first part we called March Revolution and February Revolution, which brought change in the political system, okay, which changed the what tyrannical rule to people's rule, okay. Then second revolution, which occurred in the October month or November month, that changed the lifestyles of the people, right? Socially, there was a change in the people's life. Peasants were suffered with high rent, no? So today, the people have enjoying with the ownership rights on the lands. So the status of the peoples change in the society, so that it is a social phase we call, which occurred in the month of October or November 1917. Okay, and the first one in the month of March, which brought change in the administrative system, in the political system, that is to be called political phase. Some historians says that Russian Revolution consists of two phases. One is a political phase, another is a social phase. Political phase is that March Revolution, social phase is that October Revolution instead. In that way, we see that Bolsheviks have succeeded taking the power from the what provincial government instead. Soon after, what happened here? Internal war took place, that is civil war. That war between white armies, white armies in the sense Russian army, Russian Empire army, Tsar's army. Understand? Tsar led an army very close to him, that is called white armies. They preferred monarchical rule, that is Tsar's rule, and some other people preferred this monarchical rule, and they were against to Bolshevik, which is a communist party, and they are called anti-communist soldiers. So here white minorities, sorry, white armies who preferred monarchical rule and against the communist, they are called communist soldiers. So between them a war broke out. That means those people who wanted monarchical rule, they supported the what monarchies monarchy they supported monarchical rule, who white armies, whereas this Britain, France, USA, they believed in capitalism, they were against communism. Keep in mind, Britain, France, USA, and Japan, they believe in capitalism. Their ideology is capitalism, and they did not believe in communism. Communism is different with the capitalism, right? So they did not like communism. They want that communism should not come into existence in Russia. So they supported anti-communist soldiers in Russia by supplying the arms and giving support against the what this what you call Bolshevik party instead. But Bolshevik party has succeeded defeating all those things. By 1920, the Britain, France, USA, and Japan, which given support to anti-communist people against Bolshevik party, were defeated. Here you have to keep in mind that Russia participated in World War One on the side of the Britain, right? But during the World War time, by 1917, it had withdrawn and turned against Britain. It means that it was against the capitalism. So Bolsheviks announced that immediately after coming to power, there could be what to call a peace treaty with the Germany. So by 1917, October 1917, Bolshevik Party, Lenin, what you call were entered into an agreement with Germany. That is what you call Brest-Litovsk Treaty. Just to keep in mind, no need of this treaty. Okay, Brest-Litovsk Treaty. This is a treaty. With that treaty, Russia withdrawn from the World War One. Okay, so Russia had broken the what agreement of this what you call triple entente, in which France, Britain, Russia was there, right? So here we see that with this, the Tsar's rule had come to end, right? Russia was an empire at the time, right? Whatever the nations were there in Russian Empire, they turned to independent nations. Here, Bolshevik Party agreed all the kingdoms, all the nations which were once upon a time under Russian Empire given freedom. But all those nations also set up socialist republic, socialist republic, which is a government set by Russia. And in that government, we see that all the nations, that is Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, uh, all these nations which were once again which were once in Russian Empire, they, that is Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, all once again they joined what you call this new government set by Russia. What is the new government set by Russia? Socialist Soviet Republic. Instead, it is not one nation. Several nations again joined to the this government, so it turned to Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. In short, USSR. Okay, it is not one nation, it is group of nations. USSR is a government in which several nations stood up for a common what to call government, and that was headed by Russia. Russia was the leader in USSR. Instead, this was founded in 1922. So Russian Empire was ended by World War One. In place of Russian Empire, after the World War One, we see that USSR came into existence. Okay, it started by 1922 with the leadership of Russia. Understand? So here, this is the what Russian Revolution. Understand? So Russian Revolution have brought several changes in Russia. Right? We have seen the peasants' fate, soldiers' fate, industrial workers' fate had been changed. Right? The political system also had been changed. Right? So Russian Revolution became a motivative thing for many of the nations. It was the first ever communist government formed in Russia. Understand? Dear students, we are coming to the topic again, that why do we call this, only 4 minutes is left. I'll say that why do we call March Revolution as February Revolution and October Revolution as in November Revolution, right? See, what to call up to February 1918. Here it is there, my dear students. I'll conclude within 4 minutes. Okay. See, up to February 1918, Russia had followed Julian calendar. Julian calendar. Now the world is following Gregorian calendar. Okay. So there are 13 days difference between Julian calendar and Gregorian calendar. Okay. The Gregorian calendar dates are 13 days ahead of the Julian calendar. So actually, what we see that the revolution occurred in the month of February will fall in March as per Gregorian calendar. So we call February revolution as a March revolution instead. So by our calendar, February revolution took place in the month of March because 13 days difference is there, right? Actual revolution occurred in the February as per the Julian calendar. But after 1918, they started following Gregorian calendar. So by the Gregorian calendar, the revolution occurred in the month of February falls with in the month falls in the month of March. So it is called March Revolution. Similarly, the revolution occurred in the month of October falls in November. So it is called November Revolution. Instead, that is a difference between what to call why do we call the Russian Revolution, Russian Revolution 1917 as February Revolution and March Revolution. Okay, but it is some historians call it it is only one revolution with two phases. One is a political phase, another is a social phase. What is political phase? That is a March Revolution because it ended the Tsar's rule. So political change has occurred. So it is called political phase. By November 1918, sorry, by November 19, what to call 17, there is a change in the social society. That is called socially the people's life have changed. So it is called social phase. Understand? So what it may be, it is Russian Revolution 1917, which occurred. Due to this Russian Revolution, Russia had withdrawn from the World War One. Okay, here well what you call stop our topic. Okay,